E no Dia da Mulher, uma escritora, Grace Chia, um dos nomes da literatura contemporânea de Singapura, escreveu vários livros, desde romances, contos e poesia. É a autora convidada deste festival para integrar a primeira edição do programa de escritores em residência. Grace Chia, escritora e poeta de Singapura, faz das palavras e dos versos uma expressão do desassossego, das frustrações e das ansiedades. É mulher e ser mulher é o que traça o caminho.
Singapore has quite a high degree of censorship. It's ways in which one negotiates, let's say, societal censorship as well as personal censorship. As a woman, we inevitably go through some personal censorship on a daily basis. This is, no matter what anyone says, that no, we are, yes, because of the constraints of things that that are imposed upon, because Singapore is a very Chinese-dominated society, so in a way it is inevitably quite a little bit patriarchal. I grew up with brothers, I've got father, and they have this model of what femininity should be. Obedience and things that women should do, and I had been rebelling against that all my life. So I guess with rebellion comes some form of expression, and poetry and writing for me was that outlet that I could find a way to breathe.
Grace Chia publicou o primeiro livro em 1998, Woman Go, poemas sobre identidade, sexualidade, consumismo com um toque da sensibilidade feminina. Uma voz diferente numa esfera literária dominada pelos homens, Grace Chia desafiou o sistema ao ser a única mulher a publicar poesia em Singapura durante os anos 90.
It's quite an uncomfortable experience for me because this is kind of known in Singapore that during this particular 90s period, there were a lot of poets who came out as, we call it the third wave. So we have the writers who came before independence, and then the writers who came after independence, and then I would say the Gen X writers. So I'm one of the Gen X writers, and in that sense, I was surrounded by all these young male poets who have different ideas about nationhood, about their own personal identities, about their own, whatever it is, their existential modernist angst and things like that. So I particularly came out with my own poetry, which is quite gender biased. I write a lot of sensuous poetry, experimental poetry. I write, in fact, I was one of the first few to write concrete poetry during that time. So I would say I came out with my own path. And I did what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to follow the model of the male poets.
Grace Chia faz da escrita de género uma missão ao fundar a primeira revista online de literatura feminina de Singapura, a Junuesque.
Sometimes a gendered theme when it comes to literature. Sometimes male writers tend to write about big themes, wars and politics, and and then sometimes female writers tend to write about smaller things, but in a very microscopic way, like very minute moments of, let's say, daily life, about what they go through in their minds, or confessional writing about their female existence. I like that kind of thing if it's done well. So I want to give space to this kind of writing that doesn't compete with the big themes.
Depois do primeiro livro de poesia, seguiram-se outras publicações de diferentes géneros, desde romances a contos.
Let's say 50 years ago, if we had lived then, I would say that being female would have been a disadvantage, right? Right now, it's probably not as bad, but I will not discount the fact that gender bias still exists in all facets of society, including in publishing.
Este ano, o Festival Rota das Letras tem pela primeira vez um programa de escritores em residência. Grace Chia é a convidada desta primeira edição, que conta com uma parceria com o Departamento de Inglês da Universidade de Macau.
Aspiring writers tend to have lack of confidence because sometimes they're young, sometimes they're not young, sometimes they just don't know, let's say, the technique to get into writing prolifically. They may be unfamiliar with the industry, they don't know how it works, it looks like a big black hole. I would say that this is something that they have to get their hands dirty. They need to write more. Do not expect that your first book or first story or first poem will be published. No, in fact, the first few things you write are probably going to be crap. So I would encourage aspiring writers, no matter what age they are, to keep on writing as much as possible until they have reached a stage in which they can edit themselves.